You are now listening to Scheduling Fate, hosted by author and counseling astrologer Jamie McGee. For more information, please go to schedulingfate.com.
Hi there, and welcome to Scheduling Fate. I am your astrologer, Jamie, and this is a special, fun little podcast to kind of get us in that holiday spirit, learn a little bit of astrology, and hopefully a little bit about ourselves as well. All right, so from the title, you might have gathered what we're talking about today. We're going to be focusing on A Christmas Carol, otherwise known as Scrooge by Charles Dickens. Now, before we get into this, if you do not know your personal chart, if you only know your sun sign, not your rising sign, but you do know your time of birth, there is a link underneath this broadcast where you can go and get a free chart. Even if you have a chart already, you might want to pick up one. There's a lot of fun insights around this free chart that you're going to get. And if you are very familiar with astrology, just kind of keep your chart in mind. Where are these houses? How do you work with this energy? How have you visited these shadows and this light? And the reason that I'm saying this is that every single zodiac sign is in your personal natal promise. You may or may not have planets there. They may or may not be on angles, but at one point or another, transits activate that energy in that area of your light. And when it does, you have the opportunity to explore both the shadow and the light that that energy is bringing into your life. You have a choice with that. And if anything that Ebenezer Scrooge teaches us, it's all about choice. He teaches us also that though we may start in the light, fall in the shadow, then fall again and then rise again, we always have a choice. All right. So the most recent rendition of the story that I watched was the Disney one. So that one's in my head as I'm talking about this. If you haven't seen it this year or haven't seen it recently, you might want to check it out and look for these archetypes and think about this energy in your chart. Now, in A Christmas Carol, the archetypes that are embodied by Scrooge and his old friend Jacob Marley, that's how we start the movie. We see Jacob Marley passing away, and then years later, we see him returning. Keep in mind as we begin this that Marley was someone that he looked up to that taught him everything. Now, his old friend Jacob Marley and Scrooge himself and the three ghosts that we're going to talk about today definitely reflect key universal astrological principles. Each of them have a special function in this transformation that our main character goes through. Jacob Marley, I want you to think about this. This is a character that was on Earth, died, and then came back. There is a planet, there is an energy, an archetype that can go to all the realms, to the heavens, to our material world, and to the bottom. And that is Mercury. Mercury, Hermes, is the messenger. So the role, Marley serves as the hairbringer of transformation. Much like Mercury and Hermes in mythology, he bridges material and spiritual realms, and he warns Scrooge of the consequence of the action, and he introduces to him an option. So in your chart, Mercury rules both Virgo and Gemini. Now, these are two different energies that actually square each other. However, they are both transitional energies. We are here and we're trying to get to this place. Gemini shows us the duality. This is the world that you're in. This is the world that you could be living in. Virgo shows us the transformation. If you put this effort in, this is the result that you're going to get. If you make this tiny, tiny little tweak, this is the result that you're going to get. And Virgo also has the superpower standing opposite of Pisces to see heaven. Virgo's stuck in reality, but it can see where perfection is. It can see how it can get to that beautiful space. So where are those houses in your chart? What planets are there? Do they warn you of things? How do you engage them? Now, we also have a lot, and I do mean a lot, of Saturn and Capricorn in this story. When you look at Scrooge himself, it's near impossible not to see the Capricorn archetype if you're aware of what that is. And if you're a Capricorn and you're thinking, I'm not a Scrooge, I'm definitely not pointing fingers. Bear with me because there is a lot of beautiful light in the Capricorn energy right now. As the sun moved into Capricorn just a few days ago, we are all working with a Capricorn sun. We all have that energy that we can embody somewhere in our chart. Now, this sign is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is an energy that is all about time and karma and survival. We have to do this to make it to that point. We have to build something that is sustainable, that is practical, that makes sense. Now, the shadow of Capricorn is fear and anxiety. There's this energy that feels like destitute. We're not going to make it. We have to do whatever we can just to get to this minute. We can't enjoy this because we have to get to this next point. Now, often, especially if you're a Capricorn or Capricorn rising or have strong Capricorn energies, These natives were forced to grow up a little bit too soon when ideally they should have been a child. They were put in a situation where they had to be the grown up in the room, or they had leaders in their life that made them go through hard things and say, you know what, you don't have time to cry, rub some dirt on it. Let's go. Let's move through this. You don't have time to play right now. Capricorns were often adults before they needed to be adults. And this gives them a very dutiful, beautiful, responsible energy to them. If they have a ritual, they stick to it. If they have a plan, they stick to it. They need a system, they need it to make sense. And you have this somewhere in your chart. There is an area where practicality is the demand that you must have. But Saturn, again, has a shadow. So Marley also, in some way, embodies the karmic consequences of neglecting the responsibilities of humanity. Capricorn stands opposite of Cancer. Cancer is an energy that is ruled by the moon, and the moon is our instincts, our intuition. It is our humanity. It is the public. It is how we connect to other people. So if we don't find that harmonizing balance between Capricorn and Cancer, then we've not only neglected our nurturing capacity, we've neglected our ability to be an individual, to live our own life, to find our own joy, and to partner and harmonize with other people, and honestly, all places in between those big topics. This character, this first character, I would also tell you represents Chiron in your chart. Where is Chiron? This is the wounded healer. This is something that you're going to suffer from or that you were born with, whether it happened to you or was impressed upon you. You can't heal it. You're going to carry it just like those big chains. However, you have the opportunity to inspire and help others not end up with this same wound. So Marley uses his own suffering to help Scrooge awaken. He encourages him to break free from the same fate. So notice where Chiron is in your chart. It looks like a little key. That energy, that house, that sign, and what it speaks to is your opportunity to help other people, whether it is a soul deep wound, a physical wound, or an emotional wound, wherever that is in your chart. Like this Marley character, you are able to use that and help other people. All right, so we are going to talk about the main character now, Scrooge. We're going to go back and forth around him and his nights. There was supposed to be 3 nights with the ghosts. So Ebenezer Scrooge, very much a Capricorn archetype. He represents this flawed individual bound by fear, greed, and isolation. He is this archetype that must undergo a hero's journey. If you've never read or studied Joseph Campbell, I recommend that you do that. The hero's journey is a beautiful energy that we see in every story that we work with, but definitely our own. And in the hero's journey, we always find self-discovery and a way to reconcile with ourselves, reconcile with our memories, no matter how tragic they are, and move through transformation. Now, the Capricorn shadow and light, Scrooge begins as the shadow of Capricorn, hoarding wealth, detached from his emotions, driven by fear and vulnerability. But by the end, he's going to embody the light of Capricorn, responsibility, generosity, wisdom that he can share with other people. His journey reflects Saturn's lesson, which is confronting our limitations. No matter how rich or powerful you are, time and karma, they're not something that you can buy or defeat. It is part of a story and evolution that you are going to go through. And that is a lesson that Scrooge definitely embodies. And he also has to learn to embrace humility in this. So Scrooge is definitely an interesting character. We'll talk more about that again, but I want to kind of walk you through the ghost, because the ghost is where I was like, oh man, I really see this energy. And of course, I've got 2025 heavy on my mind, and we're in Capricorn season as well. All right. So the ghost of Christmas past. In every rendition I have seen of this story, when you first meet this ghost, it doesn't seem that challenging at all. You're like, oh, you're kind of, floaty, boggy, mystical. I don't really have time to play your games. You're just something bad at 8, an illusion. You're not real. I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to obey you. This is very much a Neptune energy. There's also a bit of a moon energy in here that we're working with. But this archetype overall is the sage or the keeper of memories. This ghost compels Scrooge to confront his personal history and his unresolved pain, highlighting moments of joy and heartbreak. So this is what's going to take us back to that Capricorn in youth. We go back with Scrooge and we do see a happy, generous person at certain points in his life. There was times when he was very alone and afraid and just felt isolated when he was left at boarding school during holidays. But he had this warm, generous sister that says, you know what, it may be bad, he may be harsh, but we have each other. Like finding the joy in the darkness. There was a point where he wanted to be loved and accepted by a father figure or an authority figure that was pushing him harder. We see times when he was an apprentice and he worked very hard down to the last minute. And then he celebrated, he found his joy, and then he even began to fall in love. However, somewhere along this path, loss came. He lost people that he cared about. Fear struck. He was afraid that he was going to live in poverty. He was afraid that he couldn't take care of people. And that's what began the birth of the shadow. Even though, and most Capricorns are like this, even though he thought he was doing what was right, what was serving not only him, but generations to come, protecting them, being a good steward, he was working towards the shadow, working towards the opposite. Now, to go back to the ghost, when the ghost takes it back, you notice that he pushes and prods against this energy that's a bit mystical. This is a Neptune energy. Now, Neptune in your chart, notice where that is a generational energy, and it is the modern ruler of Pisces. Definitely pay attention to where that is. There's going to be a lot of energy there in 2025, big significant endings and beginnings. Neptune is one of those energies that at first you're like, oh, you're fine. It's just floaty, it's mystical, it's dreaming. But when you start moving through it, you're going to find some sharp, pokey edges. You're going to see a reality hidden in the fog that you're going to bump into. You can't see too far into this energy. So you have to feel your way. You have to go within. You have to follow your instincts, which is very much a Pisces kind of energy. But Neptune in general is very nostalgic. It's about illusion and emotional depth. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's the sign that reflects back on every archetype before it, and the memory and how it engages those memory changes. It's very ethereal. Now, at the same time, there is a little bit of moon in this energy too, the ghost of Christmas past, because it's connected to so many emotions and the subconscious. Now, the thing is about the subconscious and these memories that we're pulling up, Scrooge filed these away in his mind in one way, but when he went back and he was forced to be present, there were some things that he didn't want to dig up because it hurt, but he was forced to pull up to the surface. There were some things that now, through all of his life experience, because he was looking back on that memory, he saw it differently. So I would encourage you, wherever Pisces is in your chart and Neptune, to think about where you escape. What illusions do you have? What are you nostalgic for, especially this time of year? What are you ready to release? What can you forgive and what can you lean into? All right. So the Ghost of Christmas Present, I have to tell you, especially in the edition I just watched, is one of my favorites because you cannot help but see Jupiter, this benevolent provider, this very huge energy. And in this rendition that I just watched, he moves into this room and you see this abundance, this massive ghost sitting on top of a huge pile of material things and presents and gold ribbons and all and more than you can ever imagine, desire, or use. And he has this beautiful bellowing laugh where the whole room shakes. You feel yourself vibrating just watching it. That's a Jupiter energy. If you have ever met someone with a strong Jupiter, at the very least, you're going to notice their smile, but there is something abundant about them. There is a natural wisdom and there is a very, very blunt truth. Sagittarius has no problem. They really don't have a filter, but they have no problem telling you how you feel. So don't ask them unless you want to know. But this energy, this ghost, it brings out generosity and warmth and being present in the moment and the richness of the human connection. And in this journey, when Scrooge is in the present moment, he is starting to get some indicators about what people really think about him. He's also seeing the joy in Tiny Tim's home. They were pleased with the time they had together, the fire, the food that they did have, even though they were going through this very hard time with a sick child. They found joy in the moment. That was the wealth. And when Scrooge visited his nephew, which is probably a bit of a sore spot because he loved his sister, he was able to see his sister through his nephew in that present moment and how they just enjoyed being together. They weren't worried about all of the fear of the wolves knocking at the door. This energy of Jupiter, and you have Jupiter in your chart currently in the sky, it's in the Gemini house. But Jupiter does not know the difference between positive or negative. Whatever you focus on, Jupiter amplifies. So if Scrooge focused on everything that was wrong, the cold, how people are suffering, they're not working hard enough, there's all this hardship coming, get to work now, you don't have time to play, he would see an abundance of reason to support his point of view. If he focused on the joy of the moment, let's sing this song, let's go sledding, let's be present, let's offer a smile, he would have seen an abundant reason to do that. Where you put your attention, Jupiter amplifies. And you were born with a Jupiter, and wherever Jupiter's transiting is always activating in your chart. Jupiter represents expansion, abundance, and that gratitude. And this is what the ghost encourages Scrooge to embrace more in his current environment. Now, I will also say that there's a lot of sun energy in this ghost because there's a lot of vitality and light. It illuminates the potential for happiness in the now. I love that energy. All right, so the ghost of Christmases yet to come, the hairbringer of transformation as well. Now, this energy has a strong archetype of the shadow. There aren't any words here. And with this energy, because of the transformation, it really reminds me of Scorpio energy and Plutonian energy. So, where is the Scorpio house in your chart? Where is Pluto for your generation? Where is it now transiting in Aquarius? And what is the message of transformation that it's trying to teach you? Pluto's lesson for us is that we have our personal soul deep power. And a lot of us at times want to run from that power or turn from that power. And it's something that's impossible to explain why we do that. It's an interesting story that we all carry. But most likely, the reason that we turn from that power is that we have to go into the shadow. We have to go into the darkness to embrace it and balance it with the light that we have. And the Scorpio house, wherever this is in your chart, is about transformation, is about merging. It's about surrendering what was and engaging what will be, to be the writer of your own story. It's a feminine energy that can see multiple layers of psychological depths. Where is Scorpio? Do you know a Scorpio in your chart? This is also an energy that's not afraid to go into the shadows and bring it to the front. So, this silent figure that Scrooge confronts, it gives him the stark reality of his future, death, and the legacy that he is leaving. Now, when we look at this story the first time, I remember as a kid thinking, oh, well, he's just really sad that he's going to die. That I would be too. But however, it's not Scrooge's death that gets him twisted up. At first, he's afraid that it's Timmy and he feels really bad. And even when it's himself, obviously that is traumatic. But what really gets him is how people are talking about him, how people feel about him, because his entire goal was to leave a powerful legacy. And when he sees how he is remembered or seen, that really kind of rocks and rattles the Capricorn cage that he has as well. It wasn't his intention to leave a dark legacy, it was his intention to inspire people to survive, to lead by example. You know what? Do the hard work, eat this. Everything that Scrooge did, even when he was eating his meal in the beginning, was very habitual. Even though he had a large house, he didn't have a lavish meal. He was very conservative in what he did. So the legacy that he was leaving behind really struck him. And that's why he was looking for a way of rebirth. Scorpio, Plutonian energy symbolizes both death and rebirth. A lot of times we hear the first word and not the second word. If something is ending in your life, something is being born at the same time. And it's our job to ensure that we are ending things in a healthy karmic way and also bringing in new energy in a very healthy, grounded karmic way as well. And now, of course, Saturn does give us this finality. No matter how, again, no matter who you are, we all are going to have to answer to karma and time and have a reckoning at some point in our life. So again, take a look at that Scorpio house and where Pluto is. Now once Scrooge awakens from this energy, we see a new man and we begin a new story. So if we think about this in the order of the houses and the zodiac signs, Scrooge awakens, he's on fire, he's motivated, he's instinctual, he's going to take a leap of faith. Even if he doesn't know where he lands, he's going to step into the room and say, this is who I am and accept me or not. That is a very Aries energy. Then he purchases food. He wants to make sure that everyone has all the food and necessities, that their values are met, that their necessities are met, that their senses are feeling alive. That's Taurus energy, the second house. Then he goes and visits his family, his nieces and nephew. That's a Gemini house. He has a lot of conversation. He's jovial. He spends time at his home taking care of people that he cares about. That's Cancer. I'm going to nurture and protect you. As he moved throughout his year in Leo, I'm sure he was being very creative about how he wanted to inspire warmth and creativity with all those people he was giving loans to. And that led to that Virgo energy, how he could bring a different pattern and ritual into his day in and day out life. And that led to him partnering and harmonizing with other people, being in balance instead of trying to be in control, which again led him into a deeper transformation, a way to merge with other people in a positive way, leave a healthier, rich legacy. That's Scorpio energy. And by doing that, he became someone that was wise, a sage, a steward that people could look up to. That's very Sagittarius energy. which helped him embrace the light of Capricorn to be the leader, have a system and structure that people could depend on and find harmony and balance in. That's Capricorn energy. And because of that, he was connected to humanity. He was excited about his community, which leads us right into Pisces, an energy that says that we are all one. Whether we love each other or feel challenged by each other, we are all one. We are one spirit, one energy. And this is a time of year where we can tap into both our shadows and our light, engage our memories with a different outlook, and begin a legacy that we want to be a part of. All right, that's my story. I hope this helps you see your astrology and possibly the Christmas Carol a little bit differently. The archetypes of astrology are in every song, in every conversation, in every book and movie that you see. And once you know what you're looking for, you can not only recognize them there, but you can recognize them in your personal story. And that can help you, of course, balance the shadow and the light. All right, I hope you have a beautiful holiday. I'll see you on the other side.